Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Nachini Kadagewina. I'm going to turn this over to John to get started with a prayer, and then we'll start the forum.
Aho choka mauna wawa kanchangro. Ego no egidaude ego no egidaude hininge na jo ni jano. Manege wawa hajane gude no hininge. Wangrege wawa hajane gude hininge. Hamta edi mari wangre na jo ni jo hininge. Hamta edi mari wangre ni na ji hininge. Choka mauna wawa kanchangro. Nigiti wewa nakshna nigiti wewa shanagwing. Choka, we have gathered here today to listen thoughts for our future leadership. And today we want to have you look over our tribe. Bless us like you blessed our ancestors. And bless all these candidates, and that it can be positive and not negative, Joka. That we can come here and be positive together. And it is no match for the negative as long as the positive is being active. And that's what we're doing here today, Choka. Being active with our positive energy and ideas. So watch over our doings today and watch over our children and our elders and all that we care about, Choka, that you can make it that good for us. And looking forward that we can have a good path like those ones that came before us, that we can create that for the ones coming, Choka. Aho.
Is the food good to go? All right. The food is now good to go. So if you guys want to start going up there and getting food, we're going to start the forum. And you guys don't have to wait for me to stop talking, by the way. Please get food. So the forum is generally hosted by the Contemporary Native American Issues course. I have 4 students from that course in person, but that class is full of 8 students, so the rest are online or somewhere across the country due to our high flex process. So these 4 students, I know Charles, he'll be right back, but these 4 students worked hard to generate questions for this forum. And after these questions, there are a total of 7. After these questions are over, they're going to turn it up or make it open for community questions. So I think we're looking at roughly 45 minutes for student questions, and then we'll open it to the audience or the community for that matter. Ideally, we're out of here before 2, but if things go on a little further, that's not a big deal. So I am going to let my students introduce themselves, and then I'm going to give you guys the rules for the forum.
Hello, everybody. My name is Georgine Earth. I am a biology major. I have lived here in Winnebago for probably half of my life.
Hello, I'm Kayleen Brown. I grew up here as a child. I left and then I came back. And yeah, I'm a Native American Studies major. Thanks for coming.
Good afternoon. My name is Alea Frazier. I am from the Winnebago tribe of Nebraska, and I spent my life on and off the res from just bouncing around. But I live here now. Thank you.
I'll let Charles introduce himself when it's time to ask his question. So rules for the forum. Candidates, you have 2 minutes to introduce yourselves, and you have 3 minutes to respond to each question you're asked. There are 4 broad questions and 3 more personal questions for you guys. I'll let the students ask them how they want to ask them when the time comes. But for right now, I am going to let you guys introduce yourselves. Oh. One moment. Charles, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Hi, my name is Charles Parker. I'm in my second year at Little Breeze Tribal College, and I'm majoring in computer science.
All right. I'm going to turn this mic off and give the candidates their own mic right now. Just pass it back and forth between you two. Whoever wants to go first.
Is it on?
It's on.
Hanachini Karagiwina, friends and relatives, it's good to see you. First and foremost, I'm a husband and father. My name is Trey Blackhawk, my whole chunk name. That was given to me by the late Barry Blackhawk, was Wakanja Dok Chajumpga, which means summer lightning. And, really thinking about that today with all the past leadership in my family and all those that I've continued to talk to. But yeah, like I said, first and foremost, I'm a husband and father, and I take that very seriously, raising my 3 children, and, obviously, I'm a tribal member. Uh, for me, I've I started my educational journey 5 years ago, amongst COVID, and that was a difficult time, and, since then, I've done, internship with the USDA at the Office of Tribal Relations, apprenticeship with the First Nations Development Institute, and then I was also an ambassador with the American Indian College Fund as well. So I was able to get outside of Winnebago and be able to talk, about my tribe, about my college here, our college, and, just kinda talk about who I am as a person. Um, but I'll pretty much end it with that. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Darla Lapointe. I'm the daughter of Daryl Lapointe Sr. and Mary Greaves Lapointe. I was born in Albert Lea, Minnesota. I spent about my first 3 years of life there. I moved back to Winnebago and been here ever since. I am the mother of 6 boys. Um, I have 3 granddaughters and 3 grandsons. And those guys are pretty much my life now, other than working my job. Currently, I hold the position of CEO for the Winnebago Tribe of Nebraska. A little bit about my background. I started college right after high school. I went to Peru State College with a volleyball scholarship. Going into education, I wanted to be a teacher almost all my life. I lasted a year and a half there and came back to Winnebago and attended NICC and graduated with my associate degree in liberal arts. From there, I attended Wayne State College um, and received my bachelor's degree in business a long time ago. Nah, I don't want to say the year, but that was a really difficult time for me because I had lost my father, and one of the promises that I made him was that I was going to get my bachelor's degree for him. And so, raising my boys and working full time and just providing everything for them, and then having to go from work to class. Sometimes I didn't see my kids until 10 o'clock at night because at that time they didn't have hybrid classes or online classes. And so you had to physically be in the classroom. So that was a very tough time for me, but I made it through. Um, I ended up getting my business degree in his final year and almost around the same time as his memorial. So um, that was one of the goals that I set for myself. And I kind of am a goal setter. I like to set goals and accomplish those goals. And so I would go on and become the education director. I've worked multiple positions. I worked at the college. I was the financial aid director, dean of admissions and records. I served as interim president for a short term. And then I went in and took over on the director of education for the Winnebago Tribe of Nebraska. There really wasn't any goals set there. As soon as I got on, the council wanted to move forward with creating EduCare of Winnebago. And so that kind of became my priority, and the whole process of going through finding funding, doing a resolution. That was the first resolution I have ever did. Always thought that I wouldn't work for the tribe. And so that was one of my first tribal jobs that I had, other than summer youth coordinator, like years before that. Um,
I apologize, Darla. Your time's
oh,
up. It's okay.
when you're in speech class, 2 minutes seem like a long time, but then when you start talking, it's like,
It's
oh,
okay. Yeah, hold on to the mic for right now.
okay.
Before I turn this over to Georgie, I do want to acknowledge that there are candidates that are not here right now. This forum is entirely voluntary. Nobody has to be here. I appreciate those who are here. I've also had candidates like Irita reach out to me because she won't be here due to a surgery today. Keely, she wanted me to let the audience know that there's a family emergency, but she will be on her way. So I'm going to turn this over to Georgie now.
Thank you very much. And again, I want to thank you guys for being here. I know life has its has things that pop up, but again, thank you for being here. Um, just a real quick context for this. I did live here on the reservation for probably half of my life. I've lived in the Sioux City area, but I've also lived in Canada. So my question is, how will you address the lack of accessibility to mental health resources in partnership with its gap to healthcare?
Um, let's see. Dealing with healthcare, I know that now that we have telehealth, and that's pretty much from COVID, um, we have access to getting mental health people in by telehealth. And I think that's one of the things that we need to take advantage of. I know some people don't like talking to, um, a TV. They'd rather be face to face. But um, in my instance, and it's medical, not mental health, but in my instance, speaking with a professional that knows about my illness really gave me support in trusting that person and that individual, knowing that they have a background in my illness. And so trying to have telehealth come in and help with that mental health, I think that would help a lot of people. And then the other side of that is that we need more in our school. The last 6 years I spent teaching at our public school, and our children, due to COVID mostly, um, really have mental health issues that need to be addressed. And um, I would say last year, I was trying to get one of my students help, and they weren't even taking applications. And that was like three months into the school year, and they were already filled. And so the need is most definitely there, and to try to get in and get people to speak with our children so that we can catch it at an earlier age. That's, the best thing that we can do for our people and our community is start looking at our youth and focusing in on how we can make them become better Winnebago people, our community members. um, so I have thought about that, and I don't know if the school thought about that, but we have to realize that our tribe does not run our school. Pretty much the state does. And until we try to make the attempt to take over our school or take over what our children are learning, they'll never be able to get access to what they need to get help. And so they act out, and then they get in trouble for acting out, when in reality, they just probably want someone to listen to them or pay attention to them. So I guess that's kind of my take on mental health. It is much needed, especially in our school.
And kind of just going off from that, it kind of goes back into educating, doing outreach. We do have great programs here with Kakisha Day, and also the Morning Star Counseling. And there was just an event at the big screen, and I was able to talk to majority of some of those therapists there. And with that, my big thing is youth. So being the CEO for the Boys and Girls Club for the time being, is that I really want to make sure we have those mental health services at the new club, because for me is being able to pay attention to those children, and you'll kind of understand the ones that are going through a hard time. They might be acting out, they might be quiet one day, or they might be a certain way, and then just being able to talk to the kids. That's a big thing we need to start doing more, is actually listen to our youth. I know we kind of say we want to do all this for the youth, but we actually have to, have open mind and open heart and listen to what these kids are telling us. Um, but but for me, I believe we do have great, therapists here. But again, it's outreach and being able to have these program directors talk to the community more and get those services out there. Um, for me, I personally, I think we should kind of go back to some of our traditional teachings. Just that spirituality, we need to show our kids more as well. Um, Kind of going back to that is, we all have gone through hard times, and for me, as a male, we kind of get told to hold it in, as a ho chunk man, and kind of breaking that stigma of, I can openly talk about it, talk about stuff I'm going through with someone I trust. And that's the big thing is being able to trust a therapist or whoever you're going to see because you're going to lay a lot of your personal stuff onto them. So I do feel that we're going in the right direction, as a tribe, having all these different services for our people. And for me, mental health is a big thing, but more importantly, it's just outreach and making sure that those programs are getting out there and talking to the community. So if that's doing more events, then so be it. At least we'll kind of know what's going on with these programs. So I'll kind of end it there.
How do you plan to empower our elders and youth, starting with bridging the gap between lack of accessible and affordable childcare and acquiring a skilled nursing facility, as these would be a way to keep our community together?
Well, first off, thank you for that question. That's a great question. Um, for me, that's kind of my big focus is youth and the elders, making sure our elders are comfortable, making sure that their needs are met as they're getting up there in age, making sure we're taking care of them. Because a lot of times when I've visited um, with the membership, and a lot of them were 55 and over, so they're kind of getting up there in age. And for me, obviously, the main kind of point they wanted to get across is just making sure they're not forgotten about, making sure they're still valued, and that's where I truly believe in making sure all membership is valued, not just a certain select few. So for me, kind of going based off from that is just more outreach. I mean, I feel like that's is just getting the word out and making sure that um, community's input is getting valued too. Um, so I'm big on outreach and making sure we're actually engaging with the community and talking amongst everyone. So if that's we have community briefings or whatnot, or we have an online travel forum to be able to have all membership address these issues or any concerns that they have. So I do believe we should have an online forum for all tribal membership, but also what's going to come with that is having guidelines, making sure that um, there isn't any like derogative sayings or kind of how it could be like kind of like on the Facebook world. But I do believe we should have an online forum for all tribal membership, and I feel like that would be good. But then also having those community briefings with tribal council, trying to bridge that gap of letting our people know more of what's going on and what our TC is doing on a month to month basis, or even a quarterly, or however we would go about it. But um, I guess to simply answer that question is just more outreach and making sure that we're listening to our youth, listening to our elders. So I do feel having an online forum, because a lot of times it's technology nowadays. So I feel like that would be good, but also having community briefings where all these issues can get addressed. Because I know a lot of times we're busy in our daily lives, so we don't have majority of the time to go to these TC meetings or get on the agenda. So I feel like if we could have community briefings and then hear everybody's input, and then have our leadership address or talk with the community, or simply just like how I started my campaign is just going door to door and talking to everybody. We kind of need to get back to that instead of, just through phones. But I do feel that, my type of leadership is being open and honest, and being able to um, value all membership's input. So I feel like that's a good leadership trait I have. And like I said, just to answer your question, for me, it's outreach and just being able to engage with our youth and our elders and understand the problems and concerns that they have. So I'll end it there. Thank you.
Could you repeat the question?
How do you plan to empower our elders and youth, starting with bridging the gap between lack of accessible and affordable childcare and acquiring a skilled nursing facility, as these would be a way to keep our community together? To put it simply, just how do you plan to empower the youth and elders in just whatever way you think?
Okay. I know you had childcare in there, and I know when we first started Educare is a low income based. And so I knew when we were creating that and the discussion was happening that we would have people that would be over income to receive childcare services and Head Start services. And at that time, I did voice that, because I was borderline, and it's just a lot of people would need that childcare and we'd need to open it up. But in order to get the funding, a lot of the tribal programs have grants that they run off of. And we have an early Head Start grant and a Head Start grant that specifically is for low income. They take a few high income, but it's only like 10%, and it might have decreased by now. That was kind of a long time ago. But I really believe that in the childcare system, that if we start with our language and our culture and our old ways with our children, um, that we could eventually evolve into where we want to be as Winnebago people. And with our new childcare system, they're not going to be like Edgecare. So their focus could be possibly more language and culture tied into their teachings because a lot of their teachers are Winnebago tribal members. Um, so that was the childcare piece. And then for our elders, as the CEO, there was a few things that happened, and it wasn't my idea, but I seen that it happened, and it really made them feel empowered. So when I first started as a CEO, they were having problems at the Senior Citizens Center, and they were used to not getting a response or not, getting any help. So some of them came and they were very upset. And they came to council, and council made it a priority to make sure that, whatever their needs, were at that time to try to meet them. And so what they did was, eventually the senior citizens got a new director. Um, they started implementing different programming. There was some issues going on with people interacting. And so they started putting security down there because some of our elders didn't feel safe there. And so there's a lot of things that they started already incorporating into our senior citizens program and looking at what their needs are and trying to meet them. And our physical resources program or department went down and actually sat down at the senior citizens and got information from them. And that was their idea, of course, and they have that information. But for our programs to go down there and try to voice, they'll let them voice their issues with them and their programs about senior lawn care and all these senior programs that we have that are all bottled up in our organization. Why not take it to them so that they have the opportunity to apply and get the benefits that they are entitled to as tribal senior citizens?
3 minutes is up. Thank you, though. Kayleen?
Do you believe that the tribe should revisit blood quantum requirements and consider lineal descent as other tribes have done to create a more inclusive path to citizenship?
That is a tough question because that discussion is going on currently with having the people vote on everybody that's enrolled at this moment would become for force. And that's actually going to go out to the people and they're going to be making that decision. So, what will happen is the BIA is going to mail out, um, there'll be a letter going out to all the enrolled um, tribal members, and they'll have to fill that paper out and send it back to the BIA, and then the voting will occur. So when you get those letters, make sure that you open them and you answer them. But my view on it is, once we go to for force, we'll just continue to do that. So 100 years down the road, here we are again. A lot of our people can't be enrolled because they're not enough Winnebago. And so we're just going to keep doing the process over and over. Okay, everybody enrolled now is 4 force. This is just my opinion, and this is the way, I kind of see that happening. It's just going to be a continuous cycle. So why not go lineage? Because that's what eventually we're going to do anyway. We're going to be doing that anyway every time we do this 4 force over and over again. And so that's kind of my take on lineal descent is eventually we're going to be there anyway, you know, and why not, do something like that currently, although we already have something in progress and it's going to happen regardless, and it will be left up to all the tribal members to decide the 4 force thing. So
Yeah, so kind of going based off from that, my main thing is to give the membership more options. I mean, obviously we could start a new base row. I believe it's 2023 is what we're gonna go based off from to move everybody for force, or do we continue with descent, or do we do mother or fathers enrolled, or how many things are we gonna I guess try to go by, but let the membership vote all membership. So for me, that's the easiest way to put it, and that's what we're gonna go based off from. Um, I do believe that the membership would make the right choice on what we should do, but that's, obviously that's through the BIA, which we're still going through. So for me, just to kind of easily put it, is just let the membership decide. Obviously have different options of, whether we can go by descendancy. I'm pretty sure majority of all of us can prove that we do have a Winnebago tribal member enrolled in our lineage. So I feel like that would be the right way to go. Um, I guess kind of going back is that, we're not really responsible that, you know that we're 4 force. I'm just under just under half. So I feel for me that moving on and the next generations to come is that maybe not everybody's gonna, be with a Ho-Chunga tribal member. So I guess for me it's just I would like to see it go descendancy, or if we move it to 4 force. But more importantly, it's all membership. It's your guys' input that's valid and of value to let all membership make the decision to what we should go with. So I'm going to end it there, but I do believe that the membership would make the right choice on what we should do. Thank you.
My question is, how does the tribal council decide who is qualified to lead in areas like healthcare, education, and cultural programming? And how we ensure that these leaders have the background and transparency needed to truly support our community's mental health, education, and cultural connections?
So I guess with that, I'm not on council. Um, so maybe Darla could be, someone that can answer it a little bit better than me. But obviously, there's a set of guidelines that each HR department goes by to see who is qualified. Um, Personally, I would like to see more of our membership in all these positions, but that starts with building up our membership with workforce readiness. I know HCI has a good program, and then also all the programs that are going on up here at the college as well. It's just collaboration on how we can better get our own into these certain departments, and that starts with them being young, initiating that into the schools, I should say, with the college. But I feel that, there's certain protocols that obviously you have to go with when you're going to hire somebody, and obviously the pool of however that's going to look, whatever their education is, whatever their skill level is, that whoever's going to make those decisions, that I'm hoping that those are the right people to make that decision on who gets into those leadership roles. Um, but as far as how council would do it, I wouldn't really know because I'm not on tribal council. But hopefully we can make it on. I guess from there, if I do end up making it on, I could better answer your question. But that's just the communication and being open and letting people know kind of how certain things are. But with that, there is certain protocols that each department or whoever is going to do the hiring process, they have to follow those guidelines, and then obviously just making sure that we're picking the right people in these programs, and then also just doing yearly evaluations, um, just making sure that these ones in charge, have a good relationship with their staff or are able to, lead in the right direction and, keep doing a little bit more each year, not stay stagnant. That's my big thing is keep moving forward and not try to do the same things that aren't working. Figure out what works and kind of keep moving forward with it. So, um, as to like the process with tribal council, I really wouldn't know. Um, but like I said, if we do end up making it on, then I can let you know personally. But as far as that, it's just picking the right people that are in. They're going to do the hiring process and making sure that they do the right job, pretty much on picking who that department head's going to be. Thank you.
Could you repeat the first part of the question?
How does tribal council decide who is qualified to lead decisions in areas like healthcare, education, and cultural programs?
All right. Well, tribal council, they pretty much select for the committees. They don't actually do the direct hires. Yeah, so um, what happens is when tribal council sees which committees are open, which, for instance, you say health, you can look at the health board, for instance. Everybody has to apply for that committee position. And when they're applying, they got to put their requirements and why they're best for this position. And so if they have a history in health, then that's what they would put. Or I was a nurse, 10 years ago or whatever. So they'd look at everybody that submitted an application for that committee and then they make the selections. They don't do the actual direct hires for the directors. The CEO does that. But for them on that part, that's pretty much what they do. Sometimes there's not enough applicants for the committee positions that are open, and so they leave it open to whoever applies. So sometimes they might appoint somebody that maybe doesn't have the qualifications of being a water operator for our water quality committee or something like that. But they try to pick the best applicants, so they'll review the applicants and they'll make their selection. Um, Sometimes, they may have the discussion of removing a committee member. That's possible too. A lot of the committees and the boards, they have bylaws that they follow. And so, if you miss so many meetings in a row, then you're pretty much taken off there. And I know for education, they try to find somebody that has that background. So, like Educare, you try to find somebody that has a background in you know, child education, or it just depends on which level you're entering in. But they try to hire the best qualified applicant. For me, lately, I've just been interviewing for all tribal members because I feel it's important for us to be providing um, all of our education, all of our services that we have. Our people should be providing those. And in some instances, yeah, we don't have enough people. So when I look at our school and I see all the non native teachers, someday I hope that we have enough Winnebago people to go in there and teach all of our children what they need to know within their language, their culture, and all of those things that they need to be successful in their life, their adult life. And so that's kind of how it goes for tribal council. They, um, I know for the CEO position, they all sat in on my interview and made the selections.
Okay, so there was a portion that we were doing here for some personal questions. However, since you two are the only ones here, you get the bonus round. After your life experience, what motivated you to actually run for council?
Well, as many of you know, I was on council before. Before that, or prior to that, I was the education director, and education had become important to me because as I was growing up, my mother and father stressed how important education was and how they had wished that they would have finished college and would have done all these things, but they started their family and their life, and it's kind of hard to go back, and get into the school setting. And so ever since I was a little girl, I used to play teacher and be handing out worksheets, which now I know that's not what it's about. But, as a young girl, that's kind of what was taught in school is okay, here's another worksheet, here's another worksheet, here's another worksheet, learn about this, learn about that. And so education became important to me. And when I was the education director, there was certain things that I couldn't do to help my department. And so, in order to better serve our high school students and our young children and even our elders, I decided to run for council the first time so that I could make avenues for education a little bit more straight and narrow. A lot of things happened during my 3 years that I was on council and I wasn't reelected. So a lot of the things that I thought I could focus on, I didn't get to focus on. And so now coming back around, um, being a teacher and actually getting in there and doing the job, it gave me more um, knowledge and empowerment to really go in there and try and see what we could do to change the lives of our children, our adults, and our elders. And so when I get on council, I hope that, I can focus on doing those things for our community and our people um, and better serve them in all capacities, whether it's funding um, and anything else that they might need.
Another great question. So with that, like I said, I started my educational journey about 5 years ago. Um, I graduated, high school obviously in 2013. But with that, I kind of go back to kind of my spiritual beliefs and kind of how things align for you. Um, since I started my educational journey, a lot of things just got thrown at me with internships, apprenticeships, and being able to do different things outside of the community. Um, like I said, I truly believe that the Creator has a plan for all of us, and certain things just align, and that's fully what I believe. And having all these different things thrown at me, I graduated here back in 2023. I currently go to University of Nebraska Lincoln, working towards my bachelor's. Obviously, I'm taking a break for now. Um, but since there, I still want to continue on and get my master's and PhD and stuff like that as well. So, like I said, I truly believe that we all have a path, and mine kind of just happened a lot sooner, I would say. Um, but with that, having a good support system with, my wife is my biggest supporter. So being able to how I do things at home with my children, with my wife, and kind of how our structure is at home, it being a positive environment for my kids and for my wife. Um, so I truly believe that, everything does start at home, kind of how you're raised and how you interact with people and how just being good to one another. I think that that's kind of the main thing is I've never, kind of stabbed anyone in the back or anything like that, or, you know, I don't have any animosity towards anybody. I try to, really walk that path of loving one another, and it goes a long way just being good to one another. I always try to be that way. That's the way I was brought up. Um, but from there, I just feel like we are in need of new leadership. For me, I would like a seat at the table. Um, just because I'm not, small-minded. I like to take everybody's input into consideration. I'm not just gonna, have a select few that I'm gonna talk with, and this is what we're gonna do. I'm a voice for all membership, and I do value everybody's time. All the membership that have talked to this far, and there was long conversations and areas of concerns and different problems just came up, and I would like to see their ideas come to fruition as well. So me being able to talk with them is, I'm going to be a voice for, all membership. So with that, there was times where I did get shut out. There was times where I did find a grant, and it didn't move forward because I don't know. I don't know what happened, but I got shot down. And with that was food sovereignty, and that's what we're desperately in need of here. With us being in a food desert, having to travel 20, 30 miles up north, that's one of my biggest platforms is being able to have a meat locker, have different stuff for the tribal farm. Um, so with that, I'll kind of end it there. But I do feel like I'm the right leader for the tribe, and all my intentions are good. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us, Keely. I'm going to let Georgie re-ask the question she asked the other two.
Oh. I had asked these other two. It says, after your life experience, what motivated you to run for council?
There's this really neat lady, and I've talked about her before. She works at the national level in Indian country in elections, and she says elections don't solve problems. They only change the conditions. And I want to be a part of that change. I want to be a part of those conditions that we're talking about. So I ran last year wanting the same thing, wanting to be a part of that change, wanting to be a part of the good things that are happening. And the time before that I ran was when Darla was chairwoman, and we had 8 empty seats. And that was really tough on our people. And these past 10 years have been growth, have been change, have been settling into a new normal. And I want to be a part of that change. I want to be a part of the growth that we're talking about. Those neat things that Trey just talked about and that Darla talked about with education, with food sovereignty, with all of those things. We have a lot of people that, no, I'm not shading over here, but we have a lot of people that talk. We don't have a lot of doers. And we've seen that there are a lot of people that are talkers. And so I want to be a part of the doers that are making the changes, that are doing exactly what Trey said. You guys all saw what he did when he was in food sovereignty. All of a sudden we have watermelons all over town. All of a sudden there's tomatoes. All of a sudden there's all these cool things. That is a doer. And I want to be a part of the doing that changes things in our community. Real quick, if Alex didn't tell you, my grandson had emergency surgery this morning, and he just cried, "Kaka, I want my Kaka." So I had to go to Unity Point and go be Kaka, and he's out now. I have to share this because it's crazy. His appendix was 4 times bigger than the normal size it's supposed to be. So he's going to be spending the night. But that's where I was. This was important to me. I wanted to be here to hear the student questions, and I wanted to be here for everybody that's here. But my grandson takes priority there. So, but thank you for allowing me this time.
This question is for Trey. Why did you choose to be a write-in and not follow the candidacy rules? Would you call it a decision made on a whim?
Yeah, another great question. So with that, sometimes we just need a last minute prep talk, and a lot of times is I've over the years I've had elders come up to me and be like, "Hey, maybe it's your time to run," or I think you'd be a good fit for the people, and this, and I since the day I went started my campaign and said I was going to go in as a write-in, which maybe it was a more difficult road, but challenges are what I like to do. So with that there was a big thing of you know the last time somebody got in as a write-in, and maybe I chose this path just to make it a little bit more difficult to for me to actually would see who would all write my name down. Um, so with that, I there was a last minute talk that I did have with one of my relatives, and it was a long conversation, and you know, it got me feeling good. So then, obviously I missed that deadline. But I like I said, I truly believe how certain things align for you, and it has to be this way. So kind of going based off from that is that the 269 tribal members that wrote my name down, I can't thank them enough. They took the time to spell my name, and that right there is it makes my heart feel good that you know I I really didn't have to say, "Hey, can you write my name down?" It was tough conversations that I had with the membership that wrote me in, and from there, like I said, it was just the last kind of minute pep talk that I had with one of my relatives that got me, "Hey, well, go on as a write-in. You missed the deadline," and I understood that, but like I said, maybe it was just another challenge that the creator threw my way to kind of face and overcome. So, kind of going based off from that person I had that talk with is in here today as well. So I'd like to, thank that person for, coming here and, being that, having that talk with me to be able to go in as a write-in. And like I said, I appreciate the 269 tribal members that voted for me. And, that was a tough thing to do. I I was able to talk to a lot of people and go door to door and visit with a lot of relatives, sit down and break bread, have meaningful conversations. And the main thing is that a lot of people just want to be heard, valued, their input is valid, and that, I will be able to speak for everyone. And, your ideas, your concerns and problems just won't get swept under the rug. So I do like to thank all those that did vote for me as a write-in, and hopefully we make top three. Thank you.
My question was answered beautifully already. It was for Darla. So I'm just going to ask that you guys, if you look to your candidate on the right, compliment them. You're going to have to hopefully work alongside each other, your future co-counsel buddy, or just it just shows good candidacy to compliment compliment them. I don't know.
You guys got to speak into the mic.
We're up here teasing. I said, "You guys want to switch places?" Um, so Darla, stand up. I'm going to say something nice about Darla. So Darla is a year behind me in school, and she's wicked smart, you guys. And when our tribe was struggling, she stood up for our people and did some things that were really, really hard, but it made a difference for all of us. And it was exhausting and it was hard, and she had to step back. And she took that time to regroup. She took that time to teach our children. And she took that time to say, I'm going to do this again. She is a mother. She is a sister. She is the daughter of Daryl LaPointe and comes from a family of service. So when I am elected, I would be honored to serve next to Darla.
Thank you, Keely. Um, well, I just want to start off by saying our council needs younger people on there to voice the opinions. And Trey, he's willing to step up from his age group and take on the challenge of taking on a tribal council position. Um, he um, was a year younger than Nicholas, so I know him from sports and things like that. Um, he always was an active child. Patrice, one of my best friends, I kind of hung around her and kind of watched him grow up throughout the years, and He was a very energetic little boy. Sure. But has become, an educated man, and that's what he had decided to do in his life. And so there's a lot of our young men that lose their way, after they graduate from high school because they're unsure of what they want to do. And he stepped up to the plate, um, got married, had children, is being responsible, a responsible father, taking on the role of the father, taking care of his wife, taking care of his family, and taking care of his home. And those are good assets to have as a young man running for council. So I'm real thankful that he had decided to step up to the plate and take on the challenge of um, trying to get on council and make a difference for his people, for his age group, voice his opinions, and stick up for the ones that maybe don't have a voice. So proud of you, Trey.
Well, thank you, Darla. There's not many times where, I kind of get to hear stuff like that. So I'd like to thank you. Um, but any one of these two, I would be more than happy, if this is the way it is and we end up getting on, that it's all about working together. One goal is to be the voice for the people and having being a servant to the people and getting back to that, giving the voice back to the membership. So with that, I know that Keely would be a good voice for, all the membership. She's very voiceful. And there's even a time where, I did work at the tribal farm, and she stopped out, and even just that, going a little ways to come out to the farm, because not a lot of times people made it out to the tribal farm to at least kind of talk with you. And she was able to kind of offer a service of trying to kind of redo our corn a certain way with all the drought that we've been having, but just certain little things like that where it's meaningful to me when we can have a little conversation like that. So I know with Keely being educated, I know that she would be a good voice for the people, and that no doubt that she would make the right decisions if elected. Thank you.
That is all we have for the student questions. We're going to turn it over to the community for maybe 3 or 4 questions and let you guys ask the candidates them before we wrap up. Before I ask for community questions, I did want to remind people that there is food up there. So now's a good time to go get food if you haven't eaten yet, or candidates, students, no plates. Now's a good time for that. Community, who has questions? Wow, 3 right there. All right.
Hello, my name is Trisha Rivers, and I work with the Environmental Protection Department. My question is, how will you ensure that our tribal community will receive equitable access to clean air and water and an equitable response to climate disasters such as major flooding or tornadoes?
So great question. With my major being in applied sciences, obviously going to UNL, is that there's a lot of resources and a lot of people I've talked to, a lot of different teachers, and the field of protecting our natural resources is, the having you guys do your job and us just backing you up and letting you guys go to work on protecting these, but also being a voice at the state capitol and stuff like that, being able to lobby for the tribe, if certain things are to happen with our natural resources, and how can we protect our air, our land, our water, is obviously we need to kind of have a plan. I'm hoping that there will be a plan in the future, and starting with that is working with EPD and getting all of your guys' input. And, from there, obviously getting all memberships input on how we could better, you know, protect our lands here, our air, water, and all this stuff. So, with that, I do believe that you guys would do a good job on, you know, protecting all that. So, you guys have the knowledge in your field to be able to do this stuff. And it's just, us to be able to back you up. And at times where you would need help, that's where we would come in as being a resource and being able to lobby, like I said, down in Lincoln or in DC, being able to talk for you guys as far as that. So I'll kind of end it there. Thank you.
One of the things our tribe has going for us is that we employ Trisha. Um, if you know her from Red Sky or you know her from Great Plains Action Society, whatever it is she works on, she fights fiercely for our people. And the advice that she would give, the recommendations that she would provide to the council would be so invaluable. The things that I would do is work with people like at the EPA. So if you don't know, if you fill out a disaster relief application with the feds, if you typed every paper out and printed them out, it's this tall. It's this tall, literally, the paperwork. And so there's a really neat lady, her name is Kelby Kennedy, that worked at NCAI, worked for the EPA, and worked to make that application easier for tribes. And so figuring out how to fill those things out and making sure that our tribe is utilizing the money that is available to them for those things would be one thing that I would do, is work on that. The other thing is strengthening our laws. Our tribal laws for air quality, for water quality, for land quality, all of those can be reviewed and set to a higher standard, because when we have higher standard laws, then the people upriver from us have to say, hey, Winnebago's doing it this way. And whatever we're dumping goes into their water, so now we got to look at our laws too. The other part of that is making friends. Amy Coover is a tribal member. She's the director, the state director in the state of Montana for the Nature Conservancy. We need to know our person here in Nebraska. We need to be friends with our people at the Sierra Club. We need to be friends with our farmers and teach them how to best do the work that they do in growing crops, but making sure that it's not harming our water. We have so many dead zones because of all the herbicides and pesticides that are coming down. There used to be, out by my parents, there was like a free-flowing creek that went through there, but all those pesticides, they're killing that wetland that was there. So those are things that we need to work on. And asking our tribal members for help, like Amy, like Trisha, like whoever is out there that can work with us, is what we need to be doing. We need to be working harder, we need to be working smarter, and we need to work together so that we can protect this for those future generations.
Well, I'll be honest, my background isn't in environmental, but what I've learned, I know Anna Barrage brought in that water primacy and the tribe taking control and ownership of the water and the process for that to happen. And, she was asking me all these questions, and I was like, oh, I don't know too much about it. So I think that um, educating ourselves in those areas, would be very important for council, to do. Um, Things that we're looking at changing, go into the code, review the code, change the code so that it meets the needs of the people. Um, those are the things that I would suggest. And then bringing in, like Healy said, those specialized people, because we need their voice, we need their knowledge. That's why we want our children to go off and be educated so they can come back and they can help us, such as Anna Barrage. When I started this job, she just took on the challenge, and all of the things that she completed in a short period of time. Not to brag her up, but I'm just bringing this up because she's the one that brought it to my attention. And sometimes that's what you have to do to counsel. You have to bring it to their attention so they stop and they take notice and they read and learn about what people are talking about. So and I'm not afraid to do that. I'm an educated person. I believe that you're, a forever learner. As long as you're alive, you're always learning and continue to learn. And so any changes that would have to happen, such as right now, I remember when I was on council last time, we had a writer that would go out and would do different things out with the farmers and the lands and things like that. And I think at that time it was Hillary, and we had the discussion of people polluting the waters, people putting pesticides into the ground. What do they have to do, and or if they get caught with that? Well, there was really no enforcement of it, she said. And then if they do get a ticket for it, they just pay $50. Is that really what we want, for someone to come in and pollute our natural resources and have them pay $50, when it's already done? I'm not too sure. I don't think you guys have a rider anymore, or do you? Are you guys trying to get one? I thought I seen something on that, but so having someone out there, checking up on our farmers and what they're using in their fields, and how important our natural resources are to them, because a lot of them are non-native. And as long as they're making their money, do they care about if they're damaging the land? I don't think they do. So
Hello. Hello, everybody. My name is Emmy Scott. For those that don't know me, um, so in 2022, I think some people remember that there was a issue where they're trying to revise the code and about same-sex marriage within the Constitution, and that ended up where they ended up saying that it wasn't allowed, so it was a ban. And the tribal council at that time um, fortunately listened to the membership that came forward, and they overturned that, and same-sex marriage was allowed. But during that time, we also, Winnebago Two-Spirit, the nonprofit on the reservation that I'm a part of, we brought forth a resolution to recognize Pride as Two-Spirit Month for June. And during that time, I was in touch with one of my friends in the Standing Rock Sioux tribe, and they were bringing forth a similar resolution. And they also had something in there where they had um, mandatory Two-Spirit and LGBTQ education for the schools. So that would be the faculty and also the students, and that passed. And that was something that we also tried to do and put in our resolution, and we were told by the tribal council that they could not do it by resolution. They could not do it that way, and that's not how it worked. But I was wondering if you would be supportive of LGBTQ education, Two-Spirit education. Winnebago Two-Spirit actually has like a whole, we already have the resources there. We have presentations that teach about that community, the Two-Spirit community, like the traditions within the Ho-Chunk culture and other surrounding cultures, including the Sioux. And we have this ready available. We had it presented here for Human Services a couple months ago. And if you would be supportive of having something like that, LGBTQ Two-Spirit training in schools. And then also we wanted it for tribal programs, part of the training that they go through when they're hired on and for the boards and everything. Thank you.
In 2022, when all of that was going on, I was part of the protest that walked from the Human Services building down to the tribal office um, to make things right for our Two-Spirit relatives. And I'm proud to stand with our Two-Spirit relatives. So yes, I am in support of Two-Spirit education. There's two things though. The tribal council was right when they said they couldn't make
Is
the
your mic
school-
on, Keely?
Hello?
Okay.
So there's two things though. The tribal council, when you spoke to them, was right when they said that they couldn't do that by resolution for the schools. They don't have control over the schools. The school board does. So that would be a question for the school board. That's where they should have referred you. Now, going back to our tribe and our people and making Two-Spirit education a part of the orientation process, that is a request that can be made to the council. That's part of history, that's part of current life, that's part of the future. So yes, I would support that.
Yes, Keely is right. Going into the school, you'd have to go through the school board, and currently, um, they don't follow anything that the tribal council would even recommend. But they are supposed to be having quarterly meetings with the school and the council where they could hold those discussions. The current superintendent at the school made comment that they don't follow tribal law. So um, I think that there needs to be a change there in order for us to go into the school and do a curriculum such as this. It would have to go through the school board, but as we all know, they're elected board members, and I think all of them are tribal members. Um, so that would be my take on it. Now, for tribal council at the table, I have many relatives that are two-spirit, and I don't have an issue with that. Um, I know I had a relative at one time, and I was talking to their mother, and she said, "It's not in the Bible, it's not this, and it's not that." And I said, "Do you want your child to be happy?" And she said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, then you need to let them live their lives the way they want to for them to be happy in life." And I think that goes across the board for everybody. You can't say who you're going to love or not, and that's what it comes down to. As for the curriculum, it would have to be age appropriate, which you said you have those resources. So as long as it's age appropriate and introducing curriculum, I would, support that.
Well, Emmy, thank you for that. And it was good to hear that presentation that you guys had. And that was the reason why I wanted you guys to do that for our staff, is to get a better understanding of the Two Spirit organization, what you guys do. For me, I fully support the Two Spirit organization. And with that, it's just all having a better understanding. Um, and like I said, that was the main reason why I wanted to do that, is to be a little bit more educated on those matters. And for me, dealing with youth, that you can kind of see, um, different kind of bullying that's going on, or stuff like this. And as part of the Boys and Girls Club, there is different information out there for Two Spirits, but the way you guys did the presentation, I really liked it, and it gave me a better understanding, which, I do support that, a lot more people should kind of reach out to you, and you guys do these presentations. Um, I fully support it.
Yeah. Check, check. Oh, thank you, Trey. My name is Aaron Scott. Sorry, my voice is messed up. My next question for the council is about our language, the Ho-Chungular language. Um, I noticed over the years, past few years, we've been having Ho-Chunk baseball in the community, and the Renaissance program's been having a hard time getting teams to come out. A lot of families, maybe they don't have kids that are that young. You have to have 2 adults or 3 adults, 2 kids minimum. And I really been paying attention to who's really um, supporting this and who's showing up. And I noticed at our last couple events, there was very few tribal council members there. And to me, as a tribal council leader, I would think our language is very key to our way of life. It's a very hard way of life here, the Winnebago way. And all this education is great. I love everything, and I really like the dual language program going on. That's really working right now. I want to give them shout out to those guys. I seen some kids on our team that were just amazing at our language, and they were so young. But at the same time, I seen a lot of lack of community engagement with this um, throughout the years that I've been paying attention to it closer and closer. And myself, I'm trying my best to learn our language too with my family, and we do it as a family, and that works very good. What would you guys do going forward to um, educate yourself as well as the other council and maybe the rest of the community to help Renaissance out? Because there's not too many things going on along with as long as with our language with the community. There's a few little things. I think we got an Easter egg hunt, stuff like that. But going forward to help preserve our ways of life and our language, what would you do today going forward for yourself and for the community to help get this going faster? Because I feel like we're way behind.
Thank you, Aaron, for that question and those remarks. So I guess moving forward with that is to be able to maybe establish that within our different departments. Maybe we do an hour of whole chunk language or something like that, have it as a requirement. But also, it does start at home and being able to um, teach it at home. For me, I sing our whole chunk songs, and really that's kind of what little I know is being able to teach that to our youth. And, we have singing every Tuesday. So that's another kind of, I guess, avenue to kind of teach the whole chunk language and tell them about these different songs that we have. But I guess moving forward, if I am to have a seat at the table, is, I'd really advocate for, our whole chunk language program and also getting the community's input onto why kind of it is the way it is, or why we aren't attending these events more. So I guess that's talking with all membership, but I do support our Ho Chunk language program, and moving forward, I would like to see a tribally controlled school to where we would have more culture, more traditional knowledge ingrained in our children. So, like Darla was saying, it's pretty much ran through the state. And, the TC don't have a say on what goes on at the school. So, if we move to a tribally controlled school, we can have more language ingrained in our kids' lives, all the younger membership. So that is something that I would work towards if elected, and that's kind of my big thing too. Is like we only have what, like four fluent speakers here amongst our tribe, and maybe we do end up maybe closing the Ho Chunk Renaissance language program for a certain amount of time for them just to focus on the language more, to where they can have more classes. I know that there is a one that they did come up with, and I think that was full already. So I think they cut it off like at 15, but also having, say, like another 15, another speaker to do another class, or just to kind of keep it moving forward like that. But I really think having a tribally controlled school here amongst our people is something that we need to work towards, so we can really ingrain that whole chunk traditions and language in there.
Vouchers to fund this kind of thing?
I guess that's a good conversation that us as a community, us as tribal membership, should all engage in a meaningful conversation and figure out what we need to do. So there, for me, it's being resourceful and finding those answers for you. Um, but moving forward, I would like to see a tribally controlled school where it's going to be more of a focus on our language, our traditions, our our Ho Chunk traditions. So that's something that I would work towards if elected. And I guess moving forward, I'll keep in touch, and being able to still talk with you and talk with all membership about any concerns or problems or anything that comes up. Thank you.
Aaron, to answer your question, one of the first things I would do is radicalize the way that we teach language. The best way for students to learn is immersion. And probably 20 years ago, we did a 6-week immersion program. By the end of that 6 weeks, everybody was there from 8 to 4:30. People were teasing and laughing and talking in Ho Chunk, and it was amazing. And it never happened again. There's also this thing called, so there's fluent speakers, fluent understanders, and then you go down the line. We have any number of fluent understanders of the Ho Chunk language. Those are the people that need to be in that immersion program. Those are the people that know our language, they understand those words. And if you put them in that situation where they're in a fluent place, they become fluent speakers. And so we only did it for 6 weeks, but oh my God, it was amazing. Myself, Thelma, Danelle Smith was in that class, Charlie Noble, there was a bunch of us, and there's pictures. Every once in a while you see the pictures floating around. But I would change that, because the way that we're doing it once a week, it's helping us to count, it's helping us to say our names, it's helping us to do those things. But to have the conversation like we're having right now, and to have that conversation in Ho-Chunk requires us to do immersion. And so finding the money for that, we have the staff, we have the people between here and the Ho-Chunk Nation. We can do this. The Shakopee Mitawankaton did this very successfully, where you did it for a year, and you even got to bring your kids, and you got paid some stipend to come. That's why there's people my age that speak Dakota, because they were in that class. And we have to change what we're doing. This is what I'm talking about when I said that elections don't solve problems, they create new conditions. If I'm elected, this is a new condition. This is something that I really feel passionately about. Erin, you love doing things with Ho-Chunk language. Joining that class with those fluent speakers is gonna mean there's somebody younger than me that speaks Ho-Chunk. So that's what we have to do. Going on to what he's saying about a charter school for the Winnebago tribe, absolutely. Those things make a difference. We have enough kids in our town to support Winnebago Public School and Winnebago East Side, or whatever we want to call our school. It's literally, our town is this big. So we can do this. And if we elect educators and doers and people that are passionate about exactly what you're talking about, our community, those things will happen. That's how I would change it.
Well, being as the CEO right now and working with the Renaissance program right now, our Renaissance program is spread very thin on teachers. And that would be one thing that we would have to do, is if we want it to change, we need to put more money into that program. And so applying for grants, getting more teachers on board, getting more people involved, that would probably be where we would have to start, because like right now, all of Renaissance teachers are at Educare. They'll be at Educare for this semester, and then they'll go into the school. And that consistency of having language and culture every single day, is what our children need. And so the immersion classroom that they got going now with Michelle, she's pretty much setting the foundation for that. I'd walk by her classroom, when I was a teacher, and I'd see some of their projects, and I'd kind of go in there and be nosy. And I was like, yeah, I wish I could just be a kid for a day so I could kind of go in there and check it out. But she truly is laying the foundation for what we as Winnebago people want someday. And whether it's a charter school, tribally controlled, all of those are options, but yet we have to go and we got to do the research and how we take advantage of those options. And those, the whatever they are, checks, whatever that the state's giving out, the vouchers, you could use those to fund a charter school. The whole point of a charter school is that you don't have any set funding that you can pay your teachers. It all depends on how much money you can bring into that charter school and then put back into your teachers. Because right now, as all of us know, teachers don't make very much money, but they have a big job to do. And so, the first thing we'd have to do is look at how much money we are willing to put into that program, and then how many people are willing to step up. Um, I know my son, he's in 10th grade now, and he has his Ho Chunk class. It's actually required. I don't know if it's 1 or 2 years of Ho Chunk, but Renaissance brings in a teacher to high school, and he is just having the time of his life. And he'll come back and tell me how to say things in Ho Chunk, and I'm real proud of him. And even my younger kids, Ziggy used to go into their classrooms and they always remembered. Ziggy would come in and she'd have plastic fruit or plastic, she would have the object itself. And that's how they tied into learning the language. And we need to go back doing that. You know, pictures are not enough for some of our kids because they're hands-on learners. You know, we have to really take that into consideration on how we go about teaching our kids the language and the culture.
Gonna go over to Misty for one last question and then we're gonna wrap up. I know Misty already waved my hand, I'm sorry, but what I want to encourage people to do after this forum is talk to them. Campus is open until 5 and I don't think you guys will be here till 5. But I also imagine they're not leaving right away. So
Thank you. Hinekaragiwina, everyone. Misty Jefferson ga Maikate Rajara Hengairina. Chashep Skawinga Ho Chunk Rajara Hengairina. Chashep Hiki Kudich Waujena. What I just, I think that for us, we need to get comfortable with talking our own language to each other. And like in places like this, or even when our leaders speak, I think that it should be encouraged to speak our own language. And I don't know. So my name's Misty Jefferson, and my Indian name's White Eagle Woman. And my Choka Stanford Whitewater gave me that name. I was named in a Kigo, and this is a long time ago. But to me, that means a lot. And so the family that I come from and the clan that I come from, I'm representing the Eagle clan. And my grandfather, my Choka, is Stanford Whitewater. So that's the family that I come from. And my family was always raised out east by the river, along the river. So, like us, we were always out there. And so I can relate to a lot of my grandparents' stories. I never really got to come into town, and neither did my aunts and uncles that were raised out there. So when we talk about programs and things, and we wonder why certain programs aren't working and only certain people show up, I think it's because of those families. There are some families that stick together and some that just don't participate because they're looked down upon. And me being a tribal member and a voice, that's what I feel like I want to voice and let everybody know. Also, and I just want to do it in a respectful way, but I want to voice my own concern too, But with that being said, my question that I had was, we often hear candidates speak about sovereignty and governance, but does being ho- but what does being Ho Chunk mean to you beyond politics? How do you actively honor and preserve our ways in your daily life and decisions? So that's my question pertaining to culture preservation. Thank you.
I'll go ahead and start. You know, for me, being raised by a Rosebud woman, um, she grew up in an alcoholic home, and so she didn't know any of her language or culture. And then my father, being a part of my life for the first 3 years, I wasn't really. Is this on? It says it's on, but oh, okay. So for me, it was a difficult situation. I'm not using that as an excuse, but it's just the foundation of, who I am. And as Renaissance started, many years ago, my kids started bringing that back to me. So the words that they were learning, I was learning from them. We didn't have Ho Chunk in school when I was little. I remember being able to count to 10 in Head Start, and that was Frankie that taught me that. And I still remember it to this day, and so I know how to count to 10 in Ho Chunk. Um, But, that wasn't carried on with me, so I lost everything. And then when I tried to go to the camp for that week, because one of my sons, William, was good at Ho Chunk. He really enjoyed it. He really got into it. So I tried to go to that camp, and I didn't know how to pronounce the words, so I went to my grandma Vi, and I was talking to her, and I was showing her the book that they gave us, and I was like, "How do you say this?" And she said, "I can't read that. You got to tell me because I can't read that in writing." So I start trying to sing the song to her, what they taught me, and I probably didn't sound that great, but um, I think for me, it's because I don't have that history with the language. I wasn't taught that way, so it's hard for me um, to try to get in there and learn. And I'm not using that as an excuse either, because I remember when Harold, he used to come into the tribal council chambers, and he used to do that for the programs that were there during the day, during working hours, so that we could attend and learn Ho Chunk. And I think that's something that we need to bring back. And he talked about the language and the culture. And I only attended a few, but we need to get back to that and getting it out there and not just outside of work hours. I mean, which are the best for some people, but in some cases, some people can't take the time off during work because they're supporting their families and they're doing all these other things. So they say, bring the language to the people, and that would be, something like that. But a lot of families, they didn't grow up that way, and so it's really hard for them. And I don't remember which one, but someone said something about it all starts at home. And so in our cases, in many of our cases, especially if we attended like St. Aug's, our boarding schools, or things like that, where we couldn't do any of our language or culture, I think that it is very important, and our kids are getting pieces of it. We just need to take the time and the effort to get them to learn and be able to have a fluent, conversation with people in Ho Chunk.
Misty, can you ask your question again? Okay. I don't know how to be anything other than a Ho Chunk. I've never been anything other than who I am. And I am the daughter of a Ho Chunk woman. I am the granddaughter of Ho Chunks. I am the great granddaughter of Ho Chunk people. I've never been anything other than who I am. And so every day, you, the honor goes towards them. So I make sure that my children had Indian names. I make sure that the words that I know, they know. I make sure that they go around cultural events. I make sure that if there's something available that teaches our kids, I provide that for them. Ho Chunk Renaissance has these really great little storybooks, like Three Bears and all of that. Those are all in Ho Chunk. Learning those stories so they could read them to the kids. All of those things make me who I am. It isn't easy always being a Ho Chunk woman, and that's okay because it makes us stronger. And it isn't easy being Ho Chunk. There's not very many of us. There's only 5,000 of us. And so being who we are, knowing who we are, acknowledging who our relatives are is part of how I do it. When they took my grandson up in the ambulance, my son rode in the front seat with the driver, and the driver introduced himself. It was Elias Blue. And so I told him, I said, your great grandma is Alice Earth. And I said, and his great great grandma, our great great grandfather is Thomas Earth. I said, they were brother and sister. I said, you two boys are related. I said, while you're going on this drive up to the hospital, I said, talk to each other. But knowing where you come from helps you to know where you're going. And I know that we are going forward as a Ho Chunk people.
Well, Misty, great question. Kind of going back on making sure we know our history, our Winnebago history, and where we came from, and all the trials and tribulations that the tribe went through to be where we are today, And knowing that history is very important because that makes us who we are. And kind of going based off from you're a whitewater, and my grandma Victoria was a whitewater, so kind of knowing those relations like that and teaching the kids this. That's the most important thing is we're losing those like I said, all of it starts at home and explaining, talking to your kids, sitting down with them, explaining to them what being a Ho-Chunga is, what our Winnebago history is, who our families are. And for me, it's important to know exactly where you come from because like I said, that makes you who you are. And for me, being a whole chunk male and kind of how I am at my household, and I don't know everything, but I ask questions. I talk to my chokas and stuff like this, and just try to get a little bit more knowledge. That's the most important thing is making sure that we're going out to seek that knowledge from the ones that do know more than us, and having that open mind and open heart to understand and say that we don't know everything. So for me, it's important to learn the language, just like what Aaron was saying. Um, supporting more of these things into the school and teaching the history, our history in the school. Because when I went to school, I got taught about German, and I'm not German. I'm Winnebago, and I always kind of wondered that, like, why are we getting taught this other stuff and not learning our own Winnebago history? That should be taught even in the workplace as well, because there's a lot of tribal members, and what little I know, I try to teach my staff of kind of where we came from and all this stuff. But it's having that understanding and saying that we don't know everything and being able to listen and listen to our elders. And it's always sad when an elder goes because there's knowledge there that has left the tribe now. And so being able to go and talk with your chokas, your gagas, and just sitting there and listening and not saying a word, because they can go on and on. And from just that time of, like I said, talking to a lot of elders, they they told me things that I didn't know. And it's just having that understanding of, like I said, we don't know everything. And I never act like I know everything. I'm an open book. I like to learn. And when it comes to our Winnebago history, that's kind of what I like to listen to the most. So but as far as me, just things I do with my children is singing Winnebago songs. There's not enough, I should say, singers that want to learn these songs, but being able to have that at the Boys and Girls Club, and there's 12 to 15 boys that show up, at least, there's a group there that I can at least kind of make an impact on and teach them these Winnebago songs. So, you know, a lot of it does start at home and being able to sit down and talk with your kids. Thank you.
So before we wrap up, I want to ask the candidates, where can the community get a hold of you should they have any questions after today before tomorrow's election? Facebook, where are you? Email, what's your email? How do you want to reach the candidates, or how do you want them to reach you?
So tomorrow, me and my family will be at the big screen downtown. Um, I live out in the Kellys, or I could come to you. Just reach out, and I can come over to your door, and we can talk. Like I said, having those conversations with the membership, from 1 hour to 4 hours or however long it's going to be. Those are the kind of conversations that are meaningful to me. Being able to sit down and discuss maybe topics that you haven't brought up here. We could communicate at home or in my home. Just having that availability and knowing that I'm here for all membership. Like I said, not just a select few. Being that voice for all of our membership. But like I said, we'll be at the big screen tomorrow. Um, but like I said, you're more than welcome to get a hold of me. Everybody has Facebook, I'm sure. But even after this, if you want to talk after this, I'll be available as well. So your guys' opinions, your voice, and your concerns, they're all of value. I just want to let you know that I'm here for all of you guys. Thank you.
As for me, I have a CEO meeting that I have to go to here at 2:30 that I have to give to tribal council. So I'll be down in the tribal council chambers, but I also have Facebook Messenger. I have an email. Um, I can give it to you, but don't laugh at it. Just kidding. DAWLALP at hotmail.com. Yes, I still use Hotmail. Shit. But anyways, if you do have something to say, or maybe you guys just need more clarification from something I said, or maybe I didn't say enough. Maybe you want, something additional to one of the answers that I gave. I'd be available whenever. I'll be down at the slab tomorrow, probably around 11, somewhere in there. So if you wanted to stop down before you vote or however that may go, you may. I'll be down there.
So tomorrow I'm going to be at the farmer's market, and we're going to be not serving breakfast. We're doing donuts and coffee in the morning, and then we'll be there all day. We're going to do some chili in the evening, do some Indian tacos at lunchtime, all the good fun stuff. But come by, come and eat, come and ask me any question that you want to ask. Same thing, Facebook. I even have a Snapchat. No. Um, if you have my number, call me. If you need my number, let somebody know, and because I don't want to give it out like here. But just call me. Reach out there. My nanny's in here. Just whoever. Somebody's got my number. Denise has my number. Gwen's got my number. But that's where I'll be, and I look forward to talking to you. Whether we agree or don't agree, we're all Winnebago tribal members, and I'm here to support you. And I want what you want, which is good things for our people.
We're getting ready to wrap up the forum, but yeah. They said they're going to be around a few minutes more after this. So I did want to thank everybody for showing up, candidates. This forum is voluntary. Nobody has to be here, but they are here. I wanted to thank the students for getting this organization together of the forum, writing the questions, taking the time in and outside of class to get this together. The college president, Manoj Patel, he would love to be here today, but he wanted me to tell you thank you for coming here. And he's looking forward to the next tribal leadership we have. Thanks everybody for being here. Get more food if you'd like. Otherwise, election day is tomorrow, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Blackhawk Center. Candidates, community members have questions for you. Please take them.